Currently here at the University of Oklahoma, I am finishing my graduate program in Student Affairs this May. This is my presentation from Access to Success, Perspectives on First Generation Success through Pre-Collegiate Outreach. Let's see, I lost my controls. There we go. So my main objective for this presentation is to really highlight the perspectives on pre-collegiate outreach that can help build stronger programming to better prepare students for matriculation into higher education beyond the academic enhancement. So just a little context about where I gather my data from. This is data that's presented based on a 5-week summer residential academic program. This was collected from student participants and some qualitative things from staff as well. This was conducted at a state flagship university. Their pre-collegiate program offers a middle school program with integrated parent participation. And they also include weekend academies. Their high school program also includes an integrated parent participation aspect, offering weekend academies and the 5-week summer residential program, which is where this data is collected from. The 5-week summer residential program is offered to high school rising seniors. So it's the summer between their junior year and senior year. They come on campus, they live in a dorm, they eat on campus as well. They go to class, they do that formal instruction, work on scholarships, and they also work on their application to the university. They're some of the first students admitted to the university. And then the last thing they offer is a summer bridge program. This is offered to high school graduated seniors, really assisting in that transition from high school to college. So really when we think of pre-collegiate programs, we focus mostly on academic enhancement based on this model of problem, solution, and intervention. So at the foundation of pre-collegiate work, we identify the problem to be, for say, lack of access or awareness to or of resources, which leads to an educationally disadvantaged population. We find a solution to these problems by establishing weekend academies, summer programs, like I mentioned in the previous slide, and then some interventions that we can do. We intervene by providing resources, we provide instruction, we build peer groups at these events, and these are just to name a few, so those are just examples. So this model is pretty solid and universal across many pre-collegiate programs, but we have to recognize that interventions can be ever-changing and we must adapt. So the majority of this presentation is focused on this last part of intervention. So when studying components of pre-collegiate programs, researchers identified really 10 key principles that are essential to the success of a program. So listed here on the screen are 9 of them. I left off the first one, which is high standards for students and staff, as I felt this was a given. So we're just going to go through these each real quick. Personalized attention to students takes into account students' cultural backgrounds. This is an integral part of how programs adopt strategies that enable the staff to recognize the unique needs, strengths, and weaknesses of their students. Incorporating cultural backgrounds into the structure and content of the program really opens the door for social support, again, beyond the academic enhancement. But not to mention that it can be paired with. So we're working with academic enhancement, but we're going to go beyond that with the social interactions. Adult role models are effective in creating and establishing caring relationships and mentorships that support the student's progress. Role models are knowledgeable about their experience in the program and of the program. Peer support combats social isolation that can inhibit student persistence, mostly with the goal of contributing to student achievement. K through 12 program integration marries the interest of colleges and school districts that impact their longevity and can increase their support for resource allocation. This focuses on short-term and long-term goals for pre-collegiate educational development. Strategically timed interventions eliminate achievement gaps. Programs that do this well really understand adolescent development and how to increase student understanding of content. So ensuring that students understand what resources are available and are firm in their academic development. Long-term investment in students enhances students' preparation and persistence. Early intervention that begins before high school is increasingly recognized as raising predisposition for college. Providing a bridge between school and society mostly helps to affirm that success is attained through an axis of support. So this bridge helps mend this idea that colleges and universities to which students aspire to go to don't remain as alien spaces, meaning when you go there, you're not alone. There are people here for you, and there are people here to help you and show you that support. Scholarship assistance is pretty general. That can come in the form of providing scholarship or facilitating the financial aid process. And lastly, designing evaluations that contribute results to interventions is an aspect that programs largely lack. Few programs are positioned to conduct this research, and fewer still can bring that perspective to the work. Research can stem from basic program evaluation to tracking student outcome. Steps to remedy this begin really with an internal evaluation of a program, creation of a strategic plan that includes measurable student outcomes, and establishing activities and services directly tied to outcomes as well. So when evaluating the program I worked with, we touched on all of these. We did it really well, except for two of them, which I feel are pretty important to the principle of a pre-collegiate program. So again, our staff was well-versed in the program goals and experience as they all identified as first gen, and a majority of them were also former participants. Peer groups were an integral part of our program experience, so we broke everyone into peer groups, and our student staff members, their title was peer mentor, so we broke them up so every student group had a staff member to be with throughout the whole 5 weeks. The program was highly integrated into K-12 education, with the earliest outreach beginning in middle school and continuing until college graduation. The program was strong in strategically timed interventions. We provided many weekend academies that coincided with financial aid timelines and deadlines, and college entrance exams and admissions. Students completing the 5-week program, again, completed their application to the institution and were among the first admitted to their freshman class. Staff, meaning full-time staff, student staff, and instructors were highly engaged in providing an access of support to students and their families through weekend academies and through the summer programs. This program does provide scholarships to students enrolling at the university, but also puts a great emphasis on facilitating financial aid processes in their academies and summer programs. So again, there was no research being conducted at the time, which is again why I embarked on this basic level research. So our results really found that the program lacked that first point. It really lacked the personalized attention for students, which is the basis of this presentation. And then we'll move into the data that will tell us more about that. So what story does the data tell us? Here are some graphs from the data. Listed in gray are pre-surveys, and in gold are post-surveys. So you can see that the 5-week summer academic residential program provides clear increases in knowledge about college. The program satisfies its goal of providing students with that collegiate experience. So again, they live on campus in a dorm, they eat on campus, and they go to class on campus. This in turn increases the students' drive to attend college. Providing practical application and information to students largely increases the students' confidence in feeling prepared for college. And this information also provides a significant increase in their awareness of available resources. So overall, we had a pretty positive outcome academically. So when we think about students' sense of belongingness, this actually increased due to community building with peers. They had an overall positive sense of belonging. And here to the right, this is our qualitative data that we also included with this. So we noticed that it was largely due to personal quest. This question really shocked us. I think we expected greater response in relation to racial and ethnic identities, but we really came to the understanding that racial and ethnic identity awareness is heightened during one's collegiate experience and might not be at the forefront of student development pre-matriculation. So the idea of belongingness in this question seemed to be an action-driven response rather than an inclusive term. But this data really directly contradicted responses from staff. Staff, their sense of belonging was highly negative due to their racial and ethnic identities and their experience in the same institutional context on campus. The want to attend the university had no real positive increase, but it did have a slight increase in negative response pre and post survey. We can assume that this is due to historical context of existing at a PWI, with 91% of our students identifying as non-white and racially and ethnically underrepresented. So there are many positive benefits and outcomes of the program that provide lasting impact on the knowledge and resources for first-gen students. However, based on all of this, we really suggested reevaluating the program goals and objectives to encompass more of the student sense of belonging, which I'll go into next. So really this idea of moving beyond academic enhancement stems from this idea of this hidden curriculum. So pre-collegiate academic development programs provide the most consistent means of providing the educationally disadvantaged population with learning opportunities that provide the alternative to this hidden curriculum, meaning that schools send a message to students who don't conform to the cultural norm, that they'll be forced to conform or will be ignored or even pushed out. So in regards to salience and racial identity in higher ed, in general, minoritized and underrepresented college students are 2 to 3 times more likely to think about their race than their white counterparts. Students' identity is at the center of educational processes. So this can be in the context of pedagogy and course content that may or may not resonate with their identities. Programming can offer safer spaces to engage in exploration of self and others. But both contexts are influenced largely by the environment in which they exist. So this can include the historical legacy of inclusion and exclusion, the compositional diversity of campus, racial climates, and individual perceptions and interracial experiences. So it's important to know here that students obtain prior knowledge in formal and informal ways through pre-collegiate socialization. So my biggest question that I pose is, why don't we intervene here in understanding these cultural backgrounds and this salience of racial identity? Why do we wait until higher ed to deal with it when we can increase awareness of it in these pre-collegiate outreach programs? So again, moving beyond the academic enhancement to include the social engagement aspect of it. So cultural background and environment matter based on all this research. So again, with 91% of our students self-identifying as non-white, participating at a predominantly white institution, the awareness of racial and ethnic identity development and lived experience really warrants focus. Like, we can't ignore it, it's there. So the majority of this 91% identified as Latinx AO and resided in a large cultural epicenter of the Chicano movement that included really tragic events that happened on and near campus. Additionally, the school occupied indigenous land, and the school's beginnings, including its leadership's accounts and interaction with indigenous peoples, is also not to be ignored. So these are all likely things that students increase their awareness of and deal with while enrolled at the institution, according to staff members who were students at the institution. So while we want to academically enhance our students to the best of our ability, we really can't ignore the realities of the hidden curriculums that continuously push our students out and away. So this is really an opportunity to increase awareness and sense of belonging that warrants just as much preparedness as academic enhancement. So while building a solid foundation of academic enhancement for pre-collegiate programs, we can't lose focus on who our students are. We must ensure that they have personalized attention to their demographics and the environmental context in which they and the institution or program exist. We must also gather data that allows us to continually evaluate efforts and outcomes that will really help shape the best possible program to prepare students for their college experience, both academically and socially. So that's all I had. If anyone had any questions, I'm open to a few now before our time is up. If you're not able to ask, you can send me an email as well. It is there.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Juan. And if there are any questions, please feel free. You can either unmute yourself or share them in the chat. So Juan, what do you see as some of your biggest takeaways? Like, what are the next steps for you all and how you're going to be working on this?
I think a summative report to the office that we worked with. So we presented all this data and the research for it. So again, they really do a lot of things well academically, but really it's reevaluating what we do and how can we incorporate the social identity aspect into there. So a lot of the staff honestly had a lot of really good ideas. They really just wanted to increase a little bit of educational presentations during the program. So like going on a walk around campus and talking about the Chicano movement, things that happened there, talking about the indigenous land and certain areas on campus. So it's really not that hard to incorporate it. And that's why we wanted to talk about it. We want to bring it up and be like, we can't ignore this, and we want to talk about it. So it's really simple. It wasn't too much of a extra thing to add to the program. So I really hope throughout this year they've had a chance to work on that.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for sharing your presentation with us. I hope you're
all right, thank you all.
able to get a little bit of the experience of what it would have been like doing it at the annual conference.
Absolutely.
If you want to stop sharing your screen for now, we'll move on to our next presentation.
All right, stay safe, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Perfect. And then now I'd like to invite Laura Randolph, who's our Director of New Student Orientation and Family Programs at Rutgers University, New Brunswick. So Laura, if you'd like to share your screen,